What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? After more than 150 conversations with executives from companies like Disney, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, I've learned that sports is a common denominator. Some of our guests' athletic experiences earned them a place in their sports hall of fame, like Chick-fil-A chairman Dan Cathy. Some hung up their cleats after high school, like Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian, while others, like Condoleezza Rice, claim they weren't that great in their sport. But no matter their skill level, they have all told me that being a part of a team taught them leadership lessons that they still use today. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, I'm your host, Don Yeager, here to give you an all-access pass to genuine, authentic, fireside chat-like conversations with today's business icons so that you can create powerful change in your organization. This is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is Jim Kavanaugh, the CEO and co-founder of Worldwide Technology, an organization that helps more than 80 Fortune 500 companies modernize their IT infrastructure and create new digital experiences. Under Jim's leadership, WWT has grown into a global powerhouse with more than 10,000 employees and $20 billion in annual revenue. He was recently named one of Glassdoor's 25 best CEOs in America, so I'm excited to learn how playing soccer professionally helped shape his leadership. Make sure to check out corporatecompetitorpodcast.com/notes for my notes from today's session. You'll find my favorite quotes and some reflection questions that will help you integrate today's insights.
Be confident, not cocky. Challenging times really expose character of individuals, really what you're made of. When times are really good, it also exposes character. A lot of times, individuals on teams or entire teams let things go to their head and they start getting cocky. They start treating people differently. They start forgetting about what it took to get to where they are. Stay grounded, be confident, not cocky.
Jim, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. It's great to be here, Don.
You know, there's numbers that blow you away every once in a while when you look at organizations. And this one really caught my attention about your company, Worldwide Technology. 13 years in a row, you've been listed on Fortune's Great Places to Work. I mean, 13 times in a row means this wasn't a moment in time. This is culture. I'm wondering, what can you teach me from that effort to become a great place to work that you would say all businesses should know?
It's not something I think that just happens by accident. I know you've worked with a lot of coaches and leaders. It's one thing to win a game or even in a championship, but to do it repetitively year over year and perform at that level requires intentionality. There requires a process. There's a commitment to it that is not just happenstance. And looking at Worldwide was kind of interesting when we first actually submitted information, even to be part of the Great Place to Work evaluation process. I wasn't really even interested in doing it. Our VP of HR at that time asked me to do it. Honestly, I was more focused. I'm like, we need to do these things because it's the right thing to do. And I believe that by doing the right thing, we will perform better by developing our employees and committing to our people and committing to our culture and giving back. And so these are just things that I think are actually going to help us attract and retain and develop the best employees. And therefore, we're going to perform better. The interesting thing was our employees, even today, take great pride in being recognized.
Oh, yeah.
So do it for the right reason. If you're looking to just go out and get recognized and win an award, I don't think that's the right reason. If you're doing it to really develop your employees and build a culture that will stand the test of time and a culture that's based on values and behaviors, then I believe you have something that can be repeated because it's built into the DNA of your people, your organization, and your culture.
To your point, Coach Wooden used to say, to win takes talent, to win repeatedly takes character. And that's doing things for the right reasons. Along your journey to become a best place to work, was there anything that surprised you as a result of that acknowledgement?
There were just further validation, Don, to the point of do it for the right reason. I was talking to somebody that has a startup company. It's growing very successfully. And they were talking about how they're going to implement a set of values and behaviors. I said to them, I said, the one thing you really need to think about the values, but also think about, most importantly, are you the CEO and is the executive team willing to live up to those values? Because if you are a hypocrite setting a set of behaviors and values, you say one thing and you do something else, you will actually do more damage than you will benefit the business. So the real focus is doing it for the right reason, making sure you understand how important it is, even in very challenging times, to do it with character and integrity. Even though it may not be the most popular thing to do at times, you need to stand up and communicate what is based on your values and your behaviors. Now, it became popular to try to become recognized as a great place to work by Fortune magazine or other organizations. And when I would look at some other companies out there, there were a lot of them that wanted to shortcut the process. And they wanted to get to the recognition, but not necessarily do the hard work that was required to build the fundamental and foundational things that needed to be put in place to actually really drive a sustainable, long-term, successful business.
What seems really apparent is that you all had done the hard work even before thinking about applying. It wasn't a shift of priorities or a shift of efforts. That's awesome. I do want to talk to you about soccer. You played professionally, even represented the United States in that 84 Olympics in Los Angeles. Pretty cool. For a number of Olympians that I've worked with over the years, one of the things they always say that the Olympics really does for you is that sometimes you get that true opportunity to play for something bigger than yourself. In most other aspects of sports, yes, you might be part of a team, but you're seeking a contract or you got to make sure your deal is secure. You're there on the Olympic team playing for your nation, truly something bigger than you. Can you share a memory, maybe from your competitive days on those fields, that you still think about today? Some really amazing opportunity that taught you something from the field?
There are so many things that I learned from playing soccer. Soccer is an international game. It brings different people, different personalities, different upbringings. And then everybody, you get out on the field and everybody's equal.
Right.
I'm a kid that grew up at St. Louis, North County, a very blue collar area of St. Louis. My dad was a bricklayer. I would say I had a great upbringing, but we weren't provided with all kinds of gifts and opportunities to travel the world. So soccer presented that opportunity. And in 1983 or so, I was asked to come and play and redshirt for the year and travel with the Olympic team. One of the first tournaments we went and played in was in Seoul, Korea. It was the President's Cup, and it was an international tournament, which was so special. There were probably 25, 30 countries being represented. The table next to us was from Ghana. You had a table from Brazil. You could just go around to different teams from Europe and Asia, Africa, just in seeing the garb they're wearing and the patriotism. To this day, I can remember our first game walking out onto the field and playing the national anthem in a foreign country, somewhere I've never been, and just looking around inside this stadium. That was when it really stood out. It really made me proud. It was such a special time, and it's not something I took for granted. The opportunity to travel all over the world at that point. It never really been that much out of St. Louis. And now I'm in South Korea. I'm in mainland China playing at the Great Wall Tournament, in Malaysia, Thailand, Caracas, Venezuela, playing in the 1983 Pan Am Games. So many different places. It was such an educational gift to be able to see the world up close and different places around the world. There's a hierarchical standard, especially back in 1983, 84. There were those that were very wealthy, and then there were people that were just in poverty. To see how fortunate I had it, and then to be able to go around and see that it was eye-opening and it was fascinating and it was an education.
Is there anything from that that you've been able to bring into the creation of Worldwide Technologies?
You need to build a team, and that means individuals working together with different people with different personalities, different opinions, different perspectives, whatever your vision, your mission, your values and behaviors. You have to think about them very thoughtfully.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to communicate them and reinforce them repetitively.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had my executive management team, a couple of my close friends that I actually played soccer with at St. Louis University, Joe Koenig, who was a teammate of mine. He's the president of Worldwide. I co-founded Worldwide back in 1990. Well, Joe started about 3 years later. So he's been with us for almost 30 years now. Tom Strunk, the chief financial officer for Worldwide, he was a freshman at St. Louis University when I was a senior. So he played for the soccer team.
I hope you guys don't play in some city league together. That would almost be like cheating to put all of you together.
Maybe years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that still holds true now. But, getting everybody on the same page and holding people accountable to perform, those individuals, because they know me so well and there's a high level of trust that we have, they're like, Jim, stop repeating yourself. You're boring us. People are tired of hearing you talking about our mission, our vision, our values. They know it. And they almost had me. They almost had me where I'm like, wow, maybe I am. And I actually read a book by Patrick Lencioni called The Advantage, and it really talked about the two sides of really driving a high performance organization. And one is the more scientific side, the numbers of driving financial performance, operational performance. You can track and measure those things, and every company does. Some do it better than others, and it's very necessary and it's very important. However, to track, measure, manage, and invest equally in your people, your culture, your values, that's more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But it requires the same amount of attention and focus, and sometimes even more. But it doesn't necessarily get the time, focus, and attention that is required to develop your employees and build the culture and the values. So our mission is to create a profitable growth company that's a great place to work. Very simple. It's been there for about 20 plus years now. Profitability is an economic measure and marker that we need to figure out, are we winning or are we losing? And to determine how do we reinvest back in the business, reinvest back in our people, reinvest in facilities, innovation, collaboration, benefits, not just profitability for the sake of putting money in the owner's pocket. All of those things require performance, financial performance, to create a profitable growth company. If we're not moving forward, we're probably falling behind. To actually retain your best employees and really ambitious people, they want opportunities to grow.
Right. They want to see it go somewhere.
Yeah, you want to be part of that. You want to see where can you go individually and collectively as an organization. And they want to see the company grow. And if you want to go hire the best people out in the market and attract them, they want to see opportunity. And then last, but definitely not least, and equally, if not more important, is to create a great place to work for all.
Right.
And when you do that, you're not only able to support your employees and their families, but you give back to the communities where our people live. That creates a level of pride and inspiration for me and our employees. You can't go and buy that.
Yeah. You began this story by telling me that your former teammates were trying to convince you, tone it down.
Yeah.
You've already said this way too many times. But I'm assuming that where that landed was ultimately you figured out, no, I can't stop talking about it because this is what we do. This is what we have to be. And the second the leader stops talking about it, you begin to lose steam.
100% correct, Don. And not only you lose steam, people start to lose focus and clarity of what's important. Think about the importance of that reinforcement. You hire a certain amount of new employees every year. And there's a certain amount of employees that may leave for retirement, or they may be let go, or there's different reasons. So over a 4-year period, you have a large portion of your employee base that is changing out. Those people have never heard anything about your values, your behaviors, your mission. This is not only for the people that have been with you for years, it's the new people that are coming on to make sure that everybody is on the same page and truly understands what the mission, the vision, and the values are. a leadership trap that some leaders fall into, and it's easy to, is one, they get bored with themselves. They get bored with repeating.
They get bored with the message.
They get bored with the message, and they're smart people. They're ambitious. And then they almost capitulate to the book of the month club. It's whatever comes out that seems to be the hot book on leadership now gets incorporated. That becomes a problem because people don't really understand with real substance what your business concepts or leadership concepts really mean for them. It takes a long time to really get people to understand those and then to get them built into your DNA. So by introducing new things on a regular basis, I think it just creates a level of confusion that does more harm than good.
So you were able to talk your former teammates out of this concept of stepping away.
One of the benefits, I guess, of being the CEO.
That's right. I know that in your athletic journey, you have a little bit of a Michael Jordan-like twist. Back in your days at Rosary High School in St. Louis, you actually were cut from the soccer team. Michael Jordan actually points to that moment for him as a sophomore in high school as a chip on his shoulder that he carried forever. Like sometimes getting cut becomes a good thing. So here you were, you ultimately got to the top, but it wasn't always an easy path.
No, growing up, there were a number of times in club soccer also that I was cut from a team where a lot of my friends were making this team, and I ended up going and playing for another team. But I loved the game. I loved playing, and I kept playing. I was slowly but surely getting better and go to high school and get cut again as a freshman. There's always a little bit of a chip. You got to be careful, make sure the chip doesn't take you too far on one extreme. Now, in his case, you can't deny it. I don't even come close to putting myself in.
Dude, I just put you in the same sentence as Michael Jordan. Don't back down now.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't do that. I would love to, but I've got to be honest with myself. He's in rarefied air for sure. Just amazing what he has done. But I do think there is a lot to be said. Part of playing sports is being able to take constructive feedback and wanting that constructive feedback, which can be very difficult. If you're putting your hand in front of their face when they give you input, they're going to stop giving you input and you're going to stop getting better because you're not focusing on the areas. So the higher you go, the more risk there is for a bigger fall. There's a number of times and situations that you can have great success and all of a sudden something happens, new coach, this or that. To be very clear, I was asked to play for the Olympic team by the coach, Manfred Shellshot, who was my coach, and said, "Red shirt, you're with me. I'm guaranteeing you're a spot on the Olympic team." So I traveled with him and the team for 15 months playing in all kinds of tournaments. Well, about a month before the actual Olympics, the coaches changed out. Manfred got let go. New coach comes in. Alkis Panagoulis was coach of the national team. He was the one who actually let approximately half the amateur players go and brought in all pros, took the team to China, which we played in a Great Wall tournament at that time, came back a couple of weeks before the Olympics and let me go. And he brought in the rest of the professional players. So things happen. Even today, you can only have 3 players that are over 23 to play in the Olympics. Things change. Things happen. You get over it.
Mm.
Well, if I look at where I am today, some of the best experiences I've ever had in my life was playing the game and playing for the Olympic team and playing in the Pan Am Games. And at the end of the day, new coach comes in, brings in professional players at that time. You can cry, whine, do whatever, but you got to deal with it. You got to move on. And going back and playing at school, 2 more years at St. Louis University, and then I got drafted and was the second pick in the 86 draft, which was another highlight.
Great business lesson there. Too often we get caught up in a negative experience and we actually let that one bad day turn to 2. And then next thing you know, it's a bad week. How did you learn to manage those experiences?
Every day is not a perfect day. You have situations where you're running into those challenges. And I would look at the first 5 years of starting up Worldwide. We could have gone out of business multiple times. We were hanging on by a thread, but by never giving up and understanding you will have setbacks, you keep grinding through it. The grit, the determination is what allowed us to get through those challenging times. And then when you start getting your sea legs and you start actually performing, you need to be smart so you don't burn the bridges. You don't take every dollar you have.
Right.
What we could do today relative to investments and not risk the business is very different than what we could do back in 1994, 95. So you need to learn from those experiences. You need to not forget those experiences and understand you're going to continue to run into tough times. And we have done that. It's really building the foundation on values and behaviors and a work ethic that will excel and thrive in the good times, but have what it takes to grind through those tough times too.
You talk about hanging by a thread in those early years, but now you've grown worldwide into a company that has 10,000 employees, 20 billion in annual revenue. So I'd love to ask you, we've asked this question of every guest over 200 episodes now. If you were coaching me as a young leader on how to take a group of disparate individuals and turn them into a team, not a bunch of independent contractors, but actually a team, what would be the way you'd coach me to bring the best of that group across that bridge together?
First, I would set clear set of values and behaviors that I would expect from that team. Make sure that everybody on the team understand those values and those behaviors. Understanding also that everybody has a bad day, but there's a difference between having a bad day and repeatedly going against the values and behaviors that you know are the right way to behave as part of the team. The team is more important than any individual that you have. Focus on putting the right people in the right place, figuring out what are the strengths and weaknesses of different individuals and trying to put those individuals into positions to leverage their strengths and then bring the team together to help develop their weaknesses or areas of improvement. As we grow as a team with success, there's a base of character. And as you've looked at with all the people you've worked with, challenging times really expose character of individuals, really what you're made of. When times are really good, it also exposes character. A lot of times, individuals on teams or entire teams let things go to their head and they start getting cocky. They start treating people differently. They start forgetting about what it took to get to where they are.
Right.
Be confident, not cocky.
Yeah.
That's what I think drives long-term success. Stay grounded, be confident, not cocky.
Yep. You know, in my prep to be with you, one of the stories I read about you was about a tough decision in the early years at Worldwide where you actually fired a co-founder.
Well, you absolutely do your homework. So
yeah,
I think you know more about me and my background of Worldwide than I do.
I'll send you notes.
Oh, outstanding. It was a very difficult time. There were three of us that co-founded Worldwide at that point. The one co-founder was actually my boss and senior to me. The values and behaviors were not right. If that individual stayed with the company and was allowed to stay with the company, we would be out of business. I am 100% convinced. The things that I was saying would bring us to our knees at one point. If it didn't do it that day, it was going to do it in 6 months or 12 months or 2 years. He needed to go. That's a big decision. I would not recommend this for individuals starting up. You need to be very, very thoughtful because one of us were going to go.
Wow. You were willing to be the one to go if it didn't change.
No question. One of us were going to go. And that's what I said to Dave Stewart, who Dave and I are still the co-founders and owners of Worldwide today. This individual has got to go. I need you to support this. If you don't, I'm going to go. But this individual needs to go. You know, that could have very, very easily cost me my position, my ownership.
Right.
These challenging situations, it requires courage at times. You need to take chances, especially when it comes to values, behaviors, and the integrity of people that you're working with. We've got what we call our IML, our Integrated Management and Leadership Curriculum. One of the 8 key business concepts is training our managers, leaders, and employees how to have difficult conversations and make difficult decisions. Now, I would not want anybody to be in a position that I was in. That was really a game-changing decision.
A little bit more than just a difficult conversation.
Right. No question about it. Being able to assess situations, have difficult conversations, and make difficult decisions as you do, doing your homework, really being thoughtful about those things. but having the backbone and the courage to make the right decisions when you know they're the right thing to do. That's leadership.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably the biggest challenge and opportunity as far as developing employees, managers, and leaders, how to have those conversations, how to make those decisions, but do it very thoughtfully. Make sure you do your homework, but don't shy away from that, because if you put your head in the sand, the problem's not going to go away. It's probably just going to get worse.
Absolutely. Bad things don't get better with time.
Yeah.
You've often said, I love this quote, if it got harder, you worked harder. Can you share a moment in your career, in this journey to build this amazing company, where this mindset, you know what, if it gets harder, I'm going to dig in and give it more, actually made the difference in how you shaped your approach to a challenge?
Another way to look at it is the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Right.
Like, wow, boy, that company, that individual, that person, they get lucky. And I'm like, You peel it back and see they've been working their tail off. Individuals that normally are doing just that, all of a sudden luck shows up at their door, but it didn't just happen. They've been putting the time in. Joe Koenig, who is president of Worldwide, we were working on a proposal. This was 25 years ago, was for the Marines, and we were up in Quantico, Virginia, and working on something. Well, just looking at a proposal with another one of our account manager, and obviously we were young at that time, didn't really know exactly what we were doing. We were presenting the next morning, and it was like, wow, this is not what we need it to be. It needs to be better. Back then, you didn't have all the laptops, you didn't have Wi-Fi, you didn't have all this. So we literally went to a Kinko's and worked
all night long.
I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Boy.
And we worked all through the night. We redid the proposal, put it together, went back to the hotel room, took a quick shower, got out to Quantico and the Marines and gave the proposal. Now our account rep, who was a great guy, but because of this, he kind of dozed off and fell asleep in the back of the room when we were presenting.
During the presentation.
Quite a classic. But we gave the presentation. It went over incredibly well. The major that received it at that point came back, took us out, and he was like, okay, really like what you did. This was well done. It hit the mark. But the guy falling asleep in the back, that can never happen again. We're like, okay, we'll make sure that. But we actually won this contract, this opportunity he had. The major, because of the work and he knew what we did, he actually turned us on to a much bigger opportunity that literally spawned into something that really helped the company grow in a significant way when we really needed that opportunity that we didn't see in front of us.
And the validation of having them as a client.
Absolutely. Without doing that, and him going out of his way to help us because he knew what we did, to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And it's like, wow, you got lucky into this other one. Well, a little bit of, the harder you work, the luckier you get. We can never lose that. Even to where we are right now, you can never take something for granted, and you got to be willing to put the time and effort in because it's a competitive space out there.
It is. I have to say, you talked about luck showing up at your door. I feel like luck showed up at my door today. Thank you so much, Jim, that you gave me the time that you have and the lessons that I've learned. I appreciate that you joined us today as a corporate competitor.
Well, it was great spending time with you, Don, and thank you for your time. I mean, it's amazing. I feel like I'm in a special place with all the people that you have interviewed and worked with. So I feel very fortunate to be part of this. So thank you very much for having me.
Before we jump into our takeaways, I want to give a shout out to Brett Henry in Houston, Texas, who left us a great rating and review for the show. He said, I took the most notes from Coach K's episode 160. The most memorable story I've heard on your show was back in episode 23 with John Wooden's favorite player, Swin Nader, who today is an executive at Costco. Will you join Brett and leave us a review on Apple and Spotify? It means so much. Thank you. But I want to talk about Jim. What a great interview. What a great opportunity to come to the 200th episode of this podcast and to have Jim Kavanaugh on as our guest. How perfect was that? Because I love what he stands for. And what he stands for is everything this podcast is about. Number one, 13 years in a row, a Fortune magazine best place to work company. That speaks volumes about what he's built there. But I loved his line. If you want to become a best place to work, Do it for the right reasons. Don't go out to be honored. Just do the right thing. And then becoming a best place to work will be a byproduct, not the product of your efforts. It doesn't get any better than that. What a great reminder to us. Just do the right thing. The second, I loved his Olympic team experience on the U.S. men's soccer team. He learned through that time window what it meant to actually be part of something truly bigger than himself. And that those lessons helped him build the company that today reminds its 10,000 employees that they are too part of something far greater than themselves. And then finally, the story he shared about the deal that they won with the United States Marine Corps and realizing that the proposal wasn't as good as they wanted it to be, that they went to a Kinko's and stayed all night long. I think most of us have probably done that at some stage in our life. If you're of a certain age, those opportunities were created for him and were created for many because you go do the extra work. The big lesson, working hard never goes out of style. And even today, it doesn't matter how big they are, how powerful they are as an organization. It doesn't matter what we have achieved. We can never lose that. Thanks so much for being a corporate competitor for 200 episodes with us. I hope you're better because of it. I appreciate you.